These are actual maternity pajamas from boohoo.com and they were like £7, but look how neatly that covers my bump. My bum looks massive. Ooh, girl. Hello everybody and welcome back to Being Bambi. I just want to say first of all thank you to every single person who watched, commented, liked, shared, subscribed to my channel. I received so much positive feedback from it and I really felt the love from everyone, to absolutely every single person. The thing I have to say is Happy New Year. We are in 2019. Who is excited? Because I am. This is a major year for me. I am expecting my son in 8 weeks. I literally just want him here now. I just want him here tomorrow. I want to wake up and he's in his little Moses basket. We're right at the beginning of the new year and I am 32 weeks pregnant today. So I literally have 8 weeks to go from this point and I'm so excited. I need to just say a little disclaimer or two. Firstly, I want to apologise for the quality of my videos, but I hope as my channel grows I get more comfortable with the program. Exported in the wrong format. I didn't put it in the YouTube preset, which made it really blurry because YouTube compresses. Oh, getting a little kick. Another kick. YouTube compress your video, so I actually got quite a blurry quality. The other thing that went wrong with my video is after exporting for 4 hours I realised that subscribe was spelled as subscribe, like S-U-S, and I was like, I just exported this video for 4 hours. So I quickly edited that spelling mistake and then exported again for another 4 hours, so 8 hours in total now. Honey girl, it says welcome to my Chanel. The second thing I'd like to disclaim, which is way more important, is actually the timeline of my videos. I got my camera probably when I was about 4.5 months pregnant and I have been vlogging and filming things ever since that point. So I have a lot of stacked up content, but I didn't make the channel because I didn't have like a, you know when you go onto someone's channel and they have that little banner thing, border thing, and like people have like their little like welcome pictures like in a cool graphic, or like I just didn't have all of that stuff and I felt like that was necessary for me to start my channel. Raw me, page looking empty, intro looking empty, but you know it's more about the content of the video. So here I am. So now that my disclaimers are out, without further ado, Happy New Year to you all. Let us get into this video. This is how I am managing my anxiety and depression. So basically I've got a little notepad with me because I just didn't want this to be jumbled up. So moving on, I'm trying to keep this as brief as possible, but it is so hard. As a child, I was obviously not aware that I had anxiety. There was not as much information out there about what these things were. As a child, I want to say that I had many highs in life and many lows in life. I had what a health professional would deem as abnormal trauma throughout my childhood. Physical abuse, I suffered emotional abuse, I suffered sexual abuse from people outside of my family home. You cannot be scared to speak out if something is happening to you. I know it is scary. I suffered in silence. I'm going to take a minute to compose myself. I suffered in silence because I was scared that I would get in trouble. I was scared that people wouldn't believe me. Maybe I was scared that I wasn't strong enough to come forward, but you need to not suffer, because if something is happening to you that you know is not okay, you have to come forward with that for the benefit of yourself, so that you are okay in the long run. So as a child, like I said, a lot of things were happening. Very happy, like I was happy at school. My mum made sure we didn't want for anything, so although there were issues in other departments, I was well looked after as a child. So for the most part of it, I used to feel like I was having pains in my chest, and I would express that to my grandmother a lot, like, I'm having a chest pain, I'm having a chest pain. And because I am so tall, I think everyone thought I was just having like growing pains or asthma or something, and everyone would just like kind of try and get me to breathe for a bit, or lo and behold, I was actually genuinely having panic attacks. So it was quite hard for anyone to even understand that something was going on. Moving on from childhood, because I'm trying to be brief, as a teenager, probably from the age of 13 to 18, I went through one of the worst periods of my life. That you moved home 16 times, 16 times, which just meant that I had quite an unstable home environment. During my GCSEs, I moved 3 times. I was always here, there or everywhere. I remember living with my cousin for 1 year when I was 15, and I actually stayed somewhere for a year, and I didn't unpack my suitcase. I wouldn't unpack my suitcase because I knew that it wasn't permanent and that I wouldn't be there for a long period of time, and I needed to be ready to be on the move. Some of these scenarios were obviously self-inflicted. I was being a rebel at my mum's house, so I couldn't live there. I was causing too much issues for my mum and my little brother, and likewise it became really disruptive in my school environment, etc. So I just had quite an unbalanced, very chaotic teenage period. I was very angry. I was really, well, what I perceived to be anger. I was really frustrated. I was really hurt. I was really confused about the childhood that I had. I was really lonely. I felt really rejected by like my mum's family. I felt really neglected by my own dad. I just thought my hormones were all over the place because I was going through puberty. Even myself, I put a lot of things down just to I didn't know what mood I was in, and it was probably just puberty and I was lashing out. But again, I was crying out for help. It was just crazy. I had no time to check in with myself and understand how I was feeling or what was actually happening to me. I was just living in this chaos. I was drowning. I had destroyed the relationship with my mother due to just so much anger that I had towards her. It was wild. Everything was just wild. I had no control over my life. I had lost all control, and I felt really lost. Like, I did not know myself anymore. I became really disconnected, like emotionally and socially. I got caught up with the wrong kind of friends. I was just in a really bad mental and physical state. At 15, I started smoking weed all the time, like literally I was smoking weed constantly. And the weed in the UK, if this video ever goes anywhere else, it's not as clean as, like, you know, when people smoke weed in LA or whatever. And I know a lot of people are going to be like, no, weed's not that bad, blah, blah. But the skunk in UK, skunk weed, like amnesia, cheese, that's what we were smoking at the time, is sprayed with loads of things that do fuck with your psyche. And my psyche was getting more and more fucked, but we'll go more into that in a minute. It wasn't. I was a mess. I was a mess. I had no form of self-love. I didn't love myself at all. I had really, really low self-esteem. I think I was screaming for help on the inside, and I just couldn't find it. I got to like a really, really dark place. I started to self-harm. I did have like dietary issues, not in the sense where I was like anorexic or I had bulimia, but I'd do things like not eat for the whole day because I was so high, and then remember the next day like, oh, I'm hungry, and then have something really small like a sandwich. I was so thin, I was so unhealthy. I'm not saying being thin is unhealthy, but I was unhealthily thin. I remember being at study centre, which is what you end up going to when you get kicked out of school. Bear in mind, I got kicked out of school in my last year, and I started having really bad issues in school from about year 9, and I ended up getting kicked out in year 11, which was just a joke. But during my time at study centre, I remember being referred to for counselling. I think social services were involved in my life at the time because I was just on this downward spiral, and it wasn't beneficial to me at that time because I wasn't ready to receive help. So me personally has been so beneficial, and I wish that I did take it more serious at the time, but I just wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to take on any kind of form of help. I was too far gone at this point in myself. So yeah, I had a lot going on. I didn't know whether to mention this or not because it's something that has affected me forever since I went through these scenarios, and I just have been really badly affected by it. It's something I talk about a lot in my therapy sessions. It's something that made me make the decision I've made today. I had a very traumatic termination at the age of 16, when I was probably in one of the darkest places of my life. I was adamant that I wanted to have a baby, but for all the wrong reasons. A termination is an abortion. I was adamant for the wrong reasons because I just wanted to love someone, and I wanted someone to love me, and I thought that would have fixed all my problems. So I was quite adamant that I was gonna keep the baby because I was so young. It was quite public, like my peers knew, a lot of like the kids that I had grown up with in my area knew about it, and my mum like kicked me out of the house. She was not supportive of it whatsoever. And I remember one day meeting my mum and having this like really serious chat, but by this point I was already like 10 weeks pregnant, and I realised that maybe I wasn't efficient enough to continue a pregnancy, and it would have been the most unfair thing to a child to bring them into the life that I was living in. So I actually sorry, hormones. I actually decided to have a termination, and I remember like being so scared everyone was gonna judge me and really come for me. And you know, when I went before this termination, I think when you are so far along and you have a surgical procedure, they give you like a almost like a counselling session, but it's a consultation beforehand. And the lady in there, like, she really touched me. She was like, this is not about anybody else. When you're alone with that baby, nobody else that has anything to say will be there. And I just want to thank her so much for that, because actually it was for myself, it was one of the best decisions, because right now I would basically have a 9-year-old, and the amount that I've changed during that time, the growth that I've done during that time, I wouldn't have been able to do that with a baby. So, you know, although it does kill me, like when I think about it, it does hurt, it is a burden on my heart. I am glad that I done it. Unfortunately, of depression, it was my first spell of what I recall as really bad depression. I'll just go through it really quickly. I dropped out of college. I wouldn't leave the house. I got back into really bad eating habits. I would not sleep until about 4 or 5 a.m. and then when I did sleep, I would sleep till really late in the day. I would get really high. I was smoking weed really heavily at like the age of 17. I would go out all the time. Like, I was going to clubs in central London with a fake ID and just getting fucked with my friends, and you know, everyone was young, but I feel like I was trying to numb something, and I would cry myself to sleep all the time. And again, I had just a really low image of myself, and I felt really guilty, and things were just really hard. It was really bleak. I'm just gonna look at this to make sure I'm on track. I was in self-destruct, but a different kind of self-destruct from when I was 15. At 15, I was reckless. Like, I was literally living my life, and I didn't care whether I died the next day, but I don't even know who I was. And then at 18, I was like trying to find myself, but I was too stuck in a cycle, and I was really sucked in. 17, 18, and I just ended up in a really dark place. My nan passed away that year, 2011, and she was like my mum throughout my childhood. She represented a place of safeness to me and unconditional love, and when I lost her, that was it. I felt like my entire world collapsed. And at 18, I moved again. I moved out of, my mum had kicked me out when I was like 17. We were having issues again, and I lived with my best friend for a few months, and then I got my own hostel. And when I was living there, I was just kind of bumping around. I wasn't really doing anything. I was still kind of stuck in a bad cycle, in a dark place. I started working a part-time job in office. I was working a part-time job about like 20 hours a week. I re-enrolled into college, and I was actually going to college. I was eating a lot better because I had somebody who was checking on my eating habits, unresolved issues, and I was still smoking like a considerable amount. I was really stuck in a cycle, and so was he. I was still not like doing the best inside. I'd still have like days where I'd wake up and just have this tight feeling, or like a feeling of upset that I couldn't get rid of. Socially, I was still quite disengaged and like not present in the things that were happening, and I was just, although I was getting better, I still had that there. And it got to a point where I started to understand in myself, nobody was coming to save me. Like, nobody was gonna turn up on a black shiny horse and be like, here, take my hand, jump on the horse, I'm saving you. I had to save myself. I had to reevaluate what was happening in my life, and kind of think like, what do I want out of this? And although I had those thoughts, it felt like it was impossible to get to that point. It just felt like it was too far away, and it wasn't ever going to happen.